So guys, welcome to a new vlog episode, and today I thought we should do something a little bit different, because until now you've seen a lot of film from the team and myself on how we are today, but there's a lot of story behind this, and we thought it could be interesting to show you what kind of people are working with this, and we are going to show several people's journey, but today I'm going to show you my journey. So, my childhood. I was born in Oslo, eastern side of Oslo, a suburb called Romsås. It was a great place, a lot of people living in a small place, 8,000 people. It was close to nature, and I remember we did a lot of sports. So, sports and training was a big part of my upbringing, and probably because my father, he was a very good cyclist in the 50s in Norway, so for us it was natural to do a lot of sport. So I did this cross-country skiing, and I did running and stuff like that, and I was brought up with we were 4 kids together in a small apartment, 4 kids, my parents, and a dog that was barking all the time. So we had a lot of good times, but it was very crowded, and I remember that I needed to have some space and maybe do something else than everybody else was doing. So I quite early on started with Taekwondo, martial arts, because my big sister, she had a friend at school that was an expert in Taekwondo, and through her stories I was very inspired, and I also wanted to try. So when I was about 10 or 11 years old, I tried out Taekwondo, and that was definitely the big changing point in my life, because later on that would be my job and business. So I think for me to grow up like that with my parents, that was actually children when the war came to Norway, when Germany occupied Norway, so they were war kids, and that part of course affected them a lot when it came to how careful they were with money, how good they were with getting a lot out of nothing. So when we grew up, we didn't miss anything, but of course we didn't get a lot of money to spend. So I think that part of that we had to live quite simple, and in a small apartment with not so much money. That probably helped me later in life to be creative, and I wasn't used to luxury, and yeah. So my entrepreneurial journey was from my childhood, because I was an entrepreneur, like a kid with a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. So from I don't remember, maybe 5, 6 or 7 years old, I always dreamed about building a business. So I always went around trying out different projects. So I did a lot of things when I was a kid. I went door to door selling like kokosboller. It's like some kind of cake. I was cleaning stairs for people, or I repaired the toys, and I did a lot of things. I was very entrepreneurial, and I also later, when I started Taekwondo, I very early on started to train my friends for a few bucks. So I think that was a start of my entrepreneurial journey. And then of course I started my real journey when I was 18 years old. I broke up from school, dropped up from school, and I started a Taekwondo business. Role models and mentors at that time, I think, was I like to read books about Richard Branson, for example. He had a great story and was a great inspiration. I remember I looked at people like that, and of course also in my I remember there was a guy much older than me training Taekwondo together. He was a businessman, and I remember he was also a big inspiration. Yeah, I had a few people like that. My work ethic and my focus, I think first I got that from my upbringing. My parents, they were hard-working people that was very good at getting a lot out of nothing, and they had a really good work ethic. So that, I think, was the first thing that affected me. And the other thing was when I started Taekwondo, that also helped me a lot. Taekwondo was really good training for focus, and we had a lot of discipline. So that helped me with being good at keeping my focus on a goal and actually follow through on that goal, not just talk about it. So I think it was those two things. Yeah, I started my first club, my first business, when I was 18 years old, and that was my dream, and I went for it, and it was quite tough, but after a couple of years, I think it was 2 years or maybe 3 years, I started to get something going. I could have a small salary, and I actually had a small business. So that was the time that I started immediately to think about scaling this and starting more places. So I already, after the second or the third year, I started more clubs. So I had after my first club, I started 2 more clubs from the second or third year. And that was the start of my mind thinking about that was what I wanted to do. That was to scale it, to grow it, and to develop the business further. It didn't went very well. It was a very bad idea too early, but it was the foundation for what I was going to do later on. Yeah, so of course there's a lot of ups and downs when you start your own business. It's been a roller coaster journey, and I did a lot of mistakes, so many mistakes that I can't remember most of them. I put them behind me, but if I'm going to mention a couple of big mistakes, of course, the first one, to start several new clubs when I almost just got the first one started, and I had no system, or I had no clear vision or any knowledge on how to actually operate several clubs. That was the first big mistake. It helped me later, but at that time it was a bad mistake, and it cost me money, it cost me a lot of time and a lot of setback, because it created a lot of work and a lot of things happening. And of course, it also, the most important, it created that the first gym that was actually started to create some business, that, you know, went down. So that was the first mistake. And later on, many years later, we bought another company, equipment company. It's still our company, and today it's a really important part of our business. It's HITIO Sport. But at the time we bought that company, we did a lot of mistakes, and especially that we didn't have any plan, and we underestimated how much time and money it would cost to convert that company to our company and to professionalize it. Because when you buy another company like that, there's a lot of things you have to fix, and that cost us a lot of money, a lot of time. And again, it hurted our original business, because the focus changes to the new one. Today it's good, but those two were at that time big mistakes, which both of them could have destroyed the whole business forever. I remember I had probably done the business for 10 years. My club was doing really well. Made good money, had a lot of things going. We had also started the franchise model, the new business, which is today our business. So things were going really well. I was still very young, and I could, I had a nice car, and I bought a very nice apartment with a view to the sea, and everything was going great. And then, of course, again, the big challenge to build a franchise system. So I did a lot of mistakes around that, and it was really hard to change from a single martial arts business, which I had, and then actually start a franchise business where you were supposed to help other people generate their business. And the transition from that was very hard. So that hurted my business. It created a lot of chaos, a lot of things happening, used a lot of money, and lost a lot of focus. And at the same time, at that time, divorced. So suddenly from that level, doing very well, having a nice apartment, I just woke up inside my gym, sleeping at the floor, having workouts at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I just like, okay, what happened? What am I doing here? So that was a huge setback, and a huge challenge. But when I look back, of course, it also has helped us get to where we are today, because you learn a lot from mistakes like that. So through this journey, there's always a time where you can feel like when things are going the wrong way, you definitely feel that, okay, this is not fun. This is not like, oh, I'm living my dream life, living my dream, because at that time there's not a dream, it's a nightmare. But if your goal, if your vision, like I had, is strong enough, if this is what you really want, then you will come through it. But you got to make sure, like I knew that this is what I wanted, so that's how I could create tenacity and willpower to move through problems like that. And because in the end, that's what you need to do. You can't give up. You have to learn from the mistakes, and you have to turn it around and then move forward. So yeah. So when I was 18, I made this decision that changed my life, of course, because I dropped out of school and I started my business. And at that time, that was a taekwondo gym business. And what inspired me, first of all, I had dreamt of owning my own business, being an entrepreneur from I was a kid. So this was, of course, a big thing for me, and that was definitely what I wanted to do. So I had dreamed about this most of my life, but I didn't know that it was going to be with a martial arts training, and that was the perfect match when I got into taekwondo, and many years later I had a black belt and I was, pretty good at the sport. And I also then found out that, wow, this is the perfect combination. Now I, can live my dream life as an entrepreneur, and I can do it with a product that I really like, that I'm good at, and I have done it myself since I was a child. So I found out that's the perfect business. When I wanted to expand that original club business into a franchise and scale it, I think it's, first of all, it came from my desire to grow and move forward. I found out after I started my business and run it for 1 or 2 years, I found out that that was what I was good at. That was my drive. That was how I created motivation for myself, moving things forward, starting new things, creating new ideas, and then getting those ideas up and running. So I think that was the most important thing. I found out that was what I was going to do. And then I saw that, of course, I could build my own business out of taekwondo at that time, which was really difficult. And when I saw that I could succeed with that, I thought that probably there's a lot of other people that are instructors and have that same passion that wants to buy into a system where they also could live out their dream and have a business out of what they love. So then I saw that, okay, this is actually a good business idea by itself. So I think that's how that started. I wanted all the time to move forward and to get to new levels. So I had the same, motivation when I was doing sports. I love this getting to new levels and see how can I get to the next level. And then same with business. That's what drives me, and I'm pretty good at that. I'm very bad at just running things, managing things. I'm terrible at that, but I'm good at moving things forward. So that's how, yeah. So I think the motivation behind me wanting to, and not just me and my partner and the whole team, the motivation behind it is the same thing that, first we see the opportunity. It's an unbelievable opportunity in the fitness market all over Europe, all over the world. This market is growing a lot, and it's the future. People need to get in shape and take care of their health. And at the same time, we see that there is nothing in this niche, and we have this concept. So that's the first thing that I see that, then I really want to expand it, because there's a need out there and there's nothing like this. And then, of course, it's also comes from the inside that I always want to move things forward. I want to see how far can we take this. I want to see how big can this be, and it's exciting to see Also because when you grow, you get more people into the system, you learn from more people, we have people with different kind of experiences, and I think that also shapes the whole system into a better concept than it would be without it. Personally, I think it's exactly like being an athlete. If you compete on the national level, you get to a certain level, but if you decide to go international and be a top international athlete, you need to think differently, and you need to learn new skills, and you need to, you know, up your game. So it's the same with business, and I love that. It creates a lot of energy for me. Yeah, so if I was 18 years today and I was to do everything all over, I would I would learn a lot, so there's a lot of things I would do, but the most important thing I would do is that I would start this business as if I was going to sell it in 5 years. It doesn't matter if I wanted to sell it, because I've never had that goal, but I would start it as if I was going to sell that business in 5 years. That's what I would do differently. Because if you start it as if you want to sell it, you would do things a lot smarter. You would think differently. You would think that, okay, then you cannot be involved in everything. You need to bring people on early on. You need to have good procedures. You need to have a great culture. You need to have a great brand. You have to build all of these things around the business to make it work perfectly without you. And that's a much better business, even though you don't want to sell it. It's a much better business. It gives you much more freedom. It's going to make you have a lot more fun, and the business will grow a lot better than if you don't do it. So that's what I would do differently if I was 18 years old again. So if I were to have a brick in my head tomorrow and die, what kind of wisdom would I give? I would say, you know, you need to do what you know you need to do. You cannot live your life based on fear of failing, or starting something because your mother said that was the safest thing to do, or getting into a business because your father did the same thing, or something like that. That's I think would be the most important lesson I would tell you. You know, live your life the way you know you need to live it. And I think that, you know, most people don't live their life like they should live it, or do the things that they know inside they need to do, because there's a lot of fear involved, and I also think there's too much thinking. And I remember when I started training Taekwondo when I was young, I had a Asian instructor. He was coming from the military. He was very strict, but he had a couple of words he always said in strange Norwegian. And one of the most important that I have learned something from is that don't think, just do. And that has taught me a lot, because I know that we overthink things. We think a lot, we think too much, and the more we think, the more problem we will see. So you just need to first think about what you need to do, think about a starting plan, and then do it. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you learned something about myself. And I also hope you will watch us later, and we will also at a later time have more our journeys like this from incredible people that are key players in our business. And hope you see us next Thursday. And I hope that if you like this, that you push the thumbs up, and even leave a comment if you have any questions or any ideas. And yeah, see you next Thursday.